It's that time of the week for our check-in to the VLGA Newsroom with the CEO, Kathryn Arndt. Lovely to see you as always. Kathryn, how are you feeling?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Chris. Nice to see you also. How are you?
I'm going well, thank you. I've got to say I'm just outside of lockdown because I'm just near Geelong, but you're in the lockdown area. How are you feeling and keeping safe and well in these very challenging times?
They are challenging times, Chris, and I think this second lockdown has probably hit people a little harder. So there was a period of time, I think, where people were regrouping and trying to be as positive as they could be. I certainly noticed when I was out exercising last night that people appeared to be following the social distancing rules a lot better than perhaps I'd observed last week, and I thought that was a positive thing. And of course, we've just heard the numbers of cases announced this morning, and it's just so important that we're all following the advice of the Chief Health Officer.
Yes, increasing numbers, and the latest bit of advice that's probably worth mentioning is now in regional Victoria, the advice about masks has been extended to those areas. Wear them in public places if you can't safely socially distance, as they say. So I've taken to putting it in my pocket just in case if I go to the supermarket and there's a lot of people around and you feel like it's a bit close.
Yeah, good idea. I think if people have the ability, to obtain a mask and to carry one with them, that's very sound advice.
Yep. My wife actually made a few masks. So I've got a homemade one. She's done a brilliant job. Now, anyway, that's enough of the housekeeping. So one thing we wanted to touch on is the various forms of training that are happening in the lead up to the elections. And I think it's worth just spending a moment to clearly explain the differences, because you've got mandatory candidate training, you've got VLGA information sessions, and coming in very soon will be the VEC's information sessions for candidates.
It could appear to be a confused landscape for councillors and candidates alike. So I think it is worth us talking about those three very distinct elements. As we announced last week, the required mandatory training that all candidates must complete prior to nominating will now be delivered via an e-learning online training module that local government Victoria will host and facilitate, for want of a better word. It's an online program. It's not interactive with a presenter. Candidates can go on and do that at their leisure. That is not yet available to candidates. It should be available next week, fingers crossed. Clearly there's some technical issues that the government need to work through to ensure that people's privacy is protected, and I would imagine that they're able to do that just as they are with any other statutory register that the government currently is required to keep. But so that will be developed and finalised and hopefully available next week. We then have, of course, the VLGA's candidate information sessions. Now they've been running since I think late February, and they're not mandatory. They provide candidates or interested people with information generally about the local government sector, the role of local government, what it means to be a councillor, and goes through some of the campaigning processes that candidates might consider. So I guess it's a very overarching general program. Despite it not being mandatory, many councils are running the VLGA's information session across their municipalities.
And it's an important value add, I think it's worth mentioning, Kathryn, because the LGV training will be contained, and there won't be the opportunity, if you're doing an online course, to ask a lot of exploratory questions that the VLGA session gives you the opportunity to do.
Absolutely, Chris, that's an excellent point. The VLGA's information sessions provide candidates with that opportunity to ask questions. They can't do that in the mandatory training, and also have that ability to participate in a discussion that's facilitated by one of our VLGA trainers. So that brings us to now the third element of training, which is yet to be released, and that will be the Victorian Electoral Commission's candidate information sessions,
Yes.
which focus predominantly, well, focus solely on the regulatory environment that comes with being a candidate. They're not mandatory either. They will be online, closer, well, probably in the next few weeks from what I understand. Chris, we had the Deputy VEC Commissioner on VLGA Connect yesterday. So for our viewers, please watch that if you haven't yet caught up with that.
Yes, so Liz Williams on that interview, which I don't think we've released yet, I think it's coming out on the weekend, makes what I thought was a very good distinction. So the LGV training, which is mandatory, is about being a counsellor. The VEC information, which is not mandatory, will be about being a candidate. And the VLGA brings in the opportunity to explore both of those elements and ask questions and understand the whole landscape in more detail.
Yes, and look, the VLGA will certainly put out a communication that almost provides a pictorial representation of those different elements. We did write to all our member CEOs and governance teams on Friday, the 10th of July, advising them of that mandatory LGV training. Likewise, in our president's update that went out across the sector more broadly, there's about 2,500 people on that mailing list. We talked about it in that, and that communication went out on Sunday evening. So we will continue to keep the sector up to date, and we also have the opportunity to get some clarity perhaps from the local government minister when he talks with us on VLGA Connect later today.
Yes, so at the time of recording this, we're a few hours away from having a session with the new LG Minister, the Honourable Sean Lean, so I look forward to being able to share that one as well. Just on the VLGA workshops, it's been, I don't know whether we're working through them alphabetically, but it's been the M week this week. So Stephen Cooper's been up to Mansfield, I think he's doing Murrindindi yet to come, and I'm doing Mitchellshire on Saturday morning. So, and they're going to be ramping up over the next few weeks.
They are. Look, despite them not being the mandatory component, they're still really informative sessions that give candidates an opportunity to interact. So if you do have the opportunity to attend one of those, have a look at the VLGA's website, and that will give you an idea where they're being held.
So Kathryn, earlier in the week, we had another one of our very well-attended live panels. And my sense is that these are really starting to strike a chord with people. And it may be just people are just finding VLGA Connect a little more easily than before. But we had a session with Infrastructure Victoria on their advice to government for recycling and resource recovery. And you were there, and it was terrific, wasn't it?
It was, over 65 participants. We've got an increasing number of interstate viewers joining us for those live panel sessions, particularly from government. I think we had a New South Wales participant with us on Monday. And really what that panel discussion focused on was Infrastructure Victoria's report to the state government as the independent advisory body on all things infrastructure related, and talk specifically about waste and resource recovery infrastructure. So that discussion went for about an hour, and that is also available now for viewers to watch. And I must say, we do use LinkedIn a lot as one of the platforms that we share our VLGA Connect programs, but they're also available on our website for people to view, on YouTube, and also they are now a podcast, which people can listen to at their leisure. So hopefully we're capturing as many people who we know would be interested in hearing more of the information that comes out of these programs.
So perhaps becoming a bit of a victim of our success with this, I'm not sure if you want to go here just yet, but I know you've been thinking about the value to members of VLGA, and as these programs become more popular, there's a real question about whether non-members should actually be paying a fee to access the material.
Yes, look, the VLGA Connect program was launched in response originally to COVID-19, and we wanted to make it as accessible as possible across the local government sector and even community, so people outside of the local government sector. I think that we've managed now to secure a program that has broad value across not only Victoria but interstate, and now is the time to have a look at how we harness the value specifically for VLGA members, and perhaps introduce a fee for service for non-members who participate in those live panel discussions in particular.
So stay tuned for more information on that as that develops, I guess, is the message.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing I neglected to mention about the upcoming elections, which of course are in October, and that's the advice of the state government and the VEC, that they will proceed and they believe that they can proceed safely. The VLGA has written to the Chief Health Officer seeking some clarity on campaigning in a COVID-19 environment. So that the outline of those issues we raised with the Chief Health Officer were outlined in the President's News that went out the other day. That's available on our website. So once we do receive some clarity from the Chief Health Officer, we will certainly update the sector on that.
Almost out of time, Kathryn, but I just wonder if you'd like to give a quick plug to the YCC forums that are coming up.
Yes, so Your Country Community and Council continues as a VLGA program that Charles Bacana is facilitating on our behalf. We have some live forums coming up, particularly in regional Victoria, I believe. And on the 5th of August, we have Steve Cooper, the VLGA's governance guru, talking about local government for prospective Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander candidates. We also have a program coming up on NITV and political correspondence to discuss the merits and pitfalls of social media use in council candidacy. So stay tuned for those. Just related on that, our viewers might be aware that the First Peoples Assembly of Victoria announced in early June that they are ready to negotiate a treaty with the state government, and in fact negotiate multiple treaties, which of course implies that there is a role for local government in this negotiation process of those multiple regionalised treaties. So the VLGA will be meeting with the First Peoples Assembly in the coming weeks to discuss what that role might look like and how the VLGA can represent the sector in that. So stay tuned for more information.
Look forward to hearing more and perhaps talking more about that particular topic. Should leave it there, other than to ask, do you have a virtual song recommendation or choice for people to listen to this week?
Yes, well, I had the rare occasion to be in my car the other day, actually having to go and pick up my daughter's laptop from school because she's now back at homeschooling. And of course, I always listen to, 80s gold, and the Communards came on, and that really, I do love their song, Don't Leave Me This Way.
Kathryn, don't leave me this way. But you'll have to. We'll leave you this way and talk to you again next week in the newsroom. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too, Chris. Take care.
Kathryn Arndt with us, the CEO of the VLGA, for our regular newsroom feature. And thank you for your company on this week's edition here on VLGA Connect.